Hello Realtors, and welcome to the SCR Update, your go-to source for what's happening in the world of real estate and how it impacts you and your business. As always, I'm your host, Nick Kremydas, CEO of South Carolina Realtors, and joining me for episode number 365 is SCR General Counsel Byron King. Byron,
Thanks,
welcome.
Nick. Thanks for the invitation.
It is July 28th as we record this today. Mike, our director and producer, is manning the back table and the computers here in the SCR studios. And, you know, it's middle of the summer. It's hot as blazes outside. Realtors, I know a lot of your work is out of your office and out of your car. So please, obviously, stay hydrated, stay as cool as possible. Make sure you've done your coolant flushes and everything else. Make sure your car is running. I cannot imagine being without air conditioning during these dog days of summer. But it's a hot one this week especially, so please stay cool and stay safe. We've got a number of updates. We have been out of the office, or at least I was out of the office last week for some R&R, and hope you've had some time away with your family and friends this summer. Number one, just unplugging and decompressing is good for the soul, good for the body, and it re-energizes you, right? It gets you ready to get back. And today, I can tell, you pay for vacations when you get back, right? There's always a lot of catching up to do. But we've got a great team. I'm thankful for the team that we have here at SCR who kept the ship moving in the right direction as I was out last week. So we've got a lot of updates, and let me just jump right in. First, I want to share some announcements from NAR. NAR announced last week that Leslie Nettleford-Freeman will be joining NAR as their new Associate General Counsel. She's going to be the Vice President of Legal Affairs and Brand Protection. Basically, she's starting next week. She's a nationally recognized trademark protection expert with more than 20 years of experience safeguarding some of the most trusted brands across the country. She recently served as Associate General Counsel at AARP, which I got an envelope in the mail from them more than once in the last few weeks. I'm not sure what to do with those. But Leslie led efforts to protect millions of Americans 50 and older from scams and brand misuse. I guess 50 is I always thought AARP was a little bit older than that, but maybe that's why I'm starting to get these letters. Byron, have you gotten anything from AARP?
Yes.
Realtors, protecting our trademarks are critically important to our industry, and Leslie's work included dismantling a network of over 50 fraudulent domain names that were illegally using the AARP trademark, shutting down unauthorized websites, claiming to offer association discounts, and building a cross-departmental brand protection team spanning their digital, their marketing, and IT to respond swiftly to emerging threats. Beyond enforcement, Leslie developed training programs to educate colleagues on copyright and trademark issues, trademark licensing, and risk mitigation. Leslie's ability to protect brand integrity while enabling innovation will be very valuable as NAR strengthens its efforts to safeguard its most important asset, and that's the Realtor trademark. And while all Realtors are licensed professionals, not all licensed agents are Realtors. And protecting our brand ensures consumers understand the distinction and trust the elevated standards, code of ethics, and professionalism that, of course, set our members apart. Byron, the questions about trademark use are a recurring theme on our legal hotline. How can members ensure that they're properly using the marks?
Yeah, what I'd recommend on the hotline, Nick, is if you have a question about if you're using the word realtor correctly in your marketing, your advertising, your website, your social media, call the hotline. We had one issue recently when I learned some things from NAR. They'll actually act like a hotline if you want to send it to them because they're the experts. You can just email trademark@nar.realtor and they give you because once you get the sunk cost out there, pulling that back can be expensive. So you want to get this answer on the front end. And one thing I learned was as long as you're saying a realtor member of SCR, that immunizes you from a lot of the trademark issues because what they're afraid of is you're using realtor when it's interchangeable with real estate licensee.
So when it comes to the use of the marks, obviously it's better to ask for permission than forgiveness. And NAR has created this direct line to their trademark counsel to review whether it's a domain name, whether it's a website, an ad, or something that uses the marks. So if you have any questions, please email the legal hotline. You can email the trademark team at NAR directly as well. So again, don't get in a position where you're having to ask for forgiveness. The trademark is owned by the National Association of Realtors. It's a federal trademark, and NAR will enforce proper use, right?
Yeah, we're working on a legal podcast with NAR to talk about it more in depth.
Awesome. So stay tuned, guys. All right. So let's switch our focus to capital gains. There has been recent, very strong bipartisan support for capital gains reform, and Congress seems poised to modernize the home sales tax exclusion limit, a 28-year-old cap that is keeping needed inventory off the market. There's been an existing bill called the More Homes on the Market Act, and there's a new bill that was just introduced called the No Tax on Homes bill. And it's clear that capital gains reform for home sales is starting to get some momentum. I don't know why momentum is hard to say today. The issue is even on the president's radar. In a recent Oval Office exchange, the president said that he's thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses. And the issue really centers on a 28-year-old capital gains threshold. The current law allows individuals to exclude from their taxable income up to $250,000 in gain on the sale of their home. Married couples get a $500,000 exclusion. Those limits were set in 1997, as we said, 28 years ago. They've never been adjusted for inflation, despite a near tripling of the median home price over that same period. And failure to adjust the limits disproportionately burdens longtime homeowners and discourages sales, which means it also suppresses inventory levels. And that's because potential sellers, especially longtime homeowners, are opting to stay put rather than risk triggering this event, which could create a taxable gain for them. NAR, I'm pleased to report, has led the charge commissioning research that highlights the strain on homeowners and the housing market at large. NAR's research shows that nearly 29 million homeowners, that's about 34% of the current homeowner population, already face potential capital gains taxes if they sell. And that number is expected to continue to climb over the next decade. By 2030, that figure could rise to 56% and to 70% by 2035, according to NAR estimates. So 70% of homeowners could exceed that $250,000 cap. That includes many middle-class Americans who have owned and maintained homes for a long period of time and who are depending on the equity they've earned to be available in their retirement. In South Carolina, we're currently at about 26% of South Carolina's homeowners have built up more equity than the IRS would allow to be excluded from the capital gains tax. About 6.3 have exceeded the $500,000 cap, a little bit smaller number for married couples. But as you know, we know that home ownership is the primary way middle-class Americans build generational wealth. home equity and retirement accounts represent over 60% of a typical household's net worth, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. And in the last decade, the typical homeowner has accumulated more than $195,000 in wealth due to price appreciation alone, according to NAR research. That number is even higher in South Carolina. Just since COVID, we've seen almost 64% increase in median home values in the Palmetto State. So these bills that have been introduced in the House, particularly the More Homes on Market Act, which would double the exclusions limits, has strong bipartisan support. And these bills, I believe, have a very strong ability to move forward as Congress comes back from their August recess. The No Tax on Home Sales Act would eliminate federal capital gains tax on the sale of a primary residence entirely. And both bills would deliver critical tax relief to homeowners, and I believe NAR's research shows would help increase housing supply nationwide. As we've said, these potential tax burdens can create a lock-in effect, especially for seniors. And owners are discouraged from making needed transitions, downsizing, moving to be closer to family, or as these life transitions take place, and it keeps much needed inventory off the market. That's why NAR is supporting these bills that are helping to move this conversation forward. And with endorsements, like I said, bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle, the momentum behind capital gains reform, I've never seen it as strong as it currently is with this Congress. So NAR will stay at the forefront of this, continue to push Congress to modernize the policy for today's housing landscape. And frankly, I think you would agree with me, realtors, a homeowner shouldn't be taxed like an investor. And it's encouraging to see that this issue is finally getting some momentum. All right, switching closer to home a little bit here. Want to share with you, as we are looking at the next 6 months, the next 12 months, what are we projecting and predicting? I would encourage you to stay on top of NAR's research page on nar.realtor. But we have our own economist, Dr. Joey Von Nessen, who will be presenting our Palmetto State, our South Carolina economic update on August 14th, live webinar. Mike and the team will be producing. We will also be recording the webinar and making it available in case you can't watch it live. But you need data, you need information for your business plans. You need to know where we're going as a state. And Joy's economic update, we do twice a year, is a vital part of your business planning. I would encourage you to check it out and stay on top of what is happening in South Carolina. I'm going to give you a little sneak preview. Things are looking pretty good. Things are looking pretty good. Our state continues to outperform the rest of the Southeast, but I'll let Joey get into the nitty-gritty of that report. So let's talk about a couple of legal updates. One is going to be a little bit of a warning, a fair warning, if we want to play on words here a little bit, about how to properly use ForeWarn, which is our member safety app. Byron, I know we get a lot of calls on the hotline about concerns about fair housing abuses, but can you tell our viewers a little bit about ForeWarn and how it should be used in their business practice?
Yeah, definitely, Nick. So ForeWarn's one of our most popular member benefits, in addition to forums and legal hotline and our lobbying efforts. ForeWarn's a safety app. It can also help stop the seller impersonation scams, where you're trying to find the true owner, contact them, and stop the scam. But you don't want to misuse it, because you can lose access to it. And you signed an agreement when you logged in that says you're going to follow the rules, the terms of use for the ForeWarn app. So you shouldn't be looking up famous people. You shouldn't be looking up your relative. It's for business purposes. So you should, and if you use, they've got ways to detect when you're not doing what you're supposed to do on there. And for fair housing, you want to make sure that you're applying it equally. So you don't just say a man comes in your office, I'm going to run forewarned because I'm worried a man might attack me on a show. And you should do that for all consumers, like a female, elderly, young, old. Treat everybody uniformly to stay out of fair housing issues on that.
Absolutely. We had a situation just last week where Forewarned contacted me. They had turned off a member's access to the product because they noticed that this individual had done 40 checks within a matter of a couple of days, which is highly unusual use of the service. As I've jokingly said before, it's not a dating app. You shouldn't be using it to check on your future exes or past exes or whatever the case may be. It is strictly for use in your real estate business, and if you abuse that use, if you go outside of the terms of use, you will lose access to your member benefit. So please take advantage of the training that is offered. If you go to our website, the training calendars, there are monthly training classes. And for you brokers out there, I would encourage you to build one of your sales team meetings around one of these training opportunities because it literally can be a life-saving tool in your office. Switching gears to another legal case, this has to do with a building contract case. Now, we saw a proliferation of these types of contracts, especially during the COVID boom years, as we saw the price of materials and labor just skyrocket overnight. But there was a case out of Charleston just within the last week or so where a builder terminated a contract under a unilateral cancellation clause. And the courts had a pretty strong response to that. Byron, do you want to tell our members what the court said about that?
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Nick. So this is not the SCR new construction form. SCR 335 is our new construction. That's not used a lot in the marketplace. A lot of the builders, especially the large builders, hire their own attorneys to draft the contracts. And if I'm a lawyer working for a builder, I'm going to make the contract as favorable to my builder client as I can. So that's what this lawyer apparently did. In our form's philosophy is trying to meet in the middle where it would equal bargaining position you're going to meet. So in this one, and I'm preaching to realtors, you guys know how these contracts are written. Very favorable to the builder. So this basically said the builder for any reason can terminate and you can't sue me and I only have to give you $100 as liquidated damages if you do sue me. So the court said, hey, that's unfair. They used the term unconscionable. They said there's procedural and substantive. Basically saying the home builder's very sophisticated because the home builder tried to argue, well, these are like rich people. They know what's going on. They're sophisticated. The court said, well, you're a national home builder. You're still much more sophisticated in a new home construction deal than they are. So we don't buy that argument. And this thing about just giving them $100 and being able to unilaterally terminate, we don't like that either. The public policy, they said this doesn't really fall under public policy because our public policy is not, buyers shouldn't get a lemon house, so we want to protect that. This didn't really impact the quality of the home. It was a quality home, but the contract enabled the builder, kind of like what you were alluding to, the prices were going up, and the builder actually made like a lot of money, like 30% more on the house when they were able to kill this deal and then sell it to somebody else.
So let's theorize a little bit, Byron. I think the origination of these fees, of this clause, was to protect a builder in a situation where, they initially signed an agreement to build the house, and then as they go through the permits and everything, they don't actually start until maybe 6 months or 10 months or 12 months later. They find that their, material costs have increased by 30 to 50%. Labor costs double within that same time frame, and suddenly the builder's upside down. They literally can't build the house for the price that they originally agreed to. And these clauses, I believe, were created to protect a builder from those kinds of scenarios. And I think what the court said in this case, and I'm certainly paraphrasing here, and the court, and correct me, the court may have not said this at all, but what what the courts did not find conscionable was a situation where a builder would arbitrarily cancel the contract just because they could profit more by canceling the contract because of current market conditions or whatnot, not necessarily based on their personal loss on the building, but looking at these future gains, and some might even call that being a little greedy, right, and not abiding by the terms of their agreement. Again, in theory, theorizing some of the scenarios that I know that we've read about. So, Byron, our realtor members act as buyer agents, oftentimes representing buyers in new construction. What's some advice that we can give to buyer agents, our realtor members, when working with new construction buyers?
Yeah, what I would say on the hotline, if somebody were to call me and say, hey, I'm a buyer agent, I want to go look at new houses, don't just drop your client off at the door and forget about them and then just expect to get paid at the end of the thing. Try to be involved. I know sometimes you have to be the squeaky wheel to kind of get your foot in the door with the builders, but you need to be involved. You also need to tell the buyers, look, these builders have their own team of lawyers. They're well-paid lawyers. They're experienced, sophisticated lawyers. They're drafting that contract to favor their client, the builder, not you, buyer. You need to have you're going to need a closing attorney anyway. Go ahead and hire it now. Have your closing attorney look over the contract. And so you can, whether or not you can negotiate, that's a tough deal with some of these builders, but at least you want to make sure under the Code of Ethics, Article 13, you're recommending that to your buyer client. Even if you're the listing and you're dealing with these builders, say, look, there's a case. You need to have your lawyers look at it. This thing about material costs going up, maybe there's a better way to draft it that could still fit within the court. You address the materials costs going up, not just saying I can arbitrarily cancel it for any reason.
And I think what you highlighted there is important, that the buyer agent communicate this clearly in writing, that they should have their counsel, their attorney, review this contract, because it's not an SCR agreement. As you said, it's a builder's contract, and the agent may not be familiar with the terms, right? And obviously, rule number one, never give legal advice. So it definitely goes hand in hand with having outside counsel review, and get that in writing to protect the buyer agent from, a shotgun lawsuit that could result in additional liability or cost or expense. Do you think this lawsuit, now this is not I guess this wasn't a on the record litigation, but from a precedent-setting standpoint, but do you think this could trigger additional litigation?
Definitely. Like Nick said, it's published in the fact that it's in writing, but that's a kind of a legal term. Unpublished means it has no precedent, no controlling precedent. But the thoughts in here go back to several cases that reference contracts. They talk about adhesion contracts, like when you sign up for your phone, you'll sign in basically a terms of use. You sign that. If you go to Disney World, in the back of your ticket says you can't sue us. But lawyers, there's a way to go around those adhesion contracts, which is what happened here. So definitely that's a theme. And so what I tell on the hotline, verbally say hire a lawyer and consult with them, and then send an email so you got a record.
Mm-hmm. Like when you go to a golf tournament, you basically waive any liability from getting hit by a golf ball, right? And realtors, if you haven't seen Happy Gilmore 2, I'm not going to spoil the plot, but if you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a horrific scene in that movie that you need to watch. It's funny. Let's see. So I think in closing on this case, I think it's important, realtors, when representing buyers in new construction, advise them to seek outside counsel for these contracts, make sure they understand completely what their rights are in the transaction, and what could go wrong in those situations. So Byron, thanks for the update on that.
Welcome.
The couple more things, guys. I know this is a long update today, but like I said, we've got a lot to catch up on over the last couple of weeks. NAR had a couple of big legal wins over the last couple of weeks. I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but the Italis and Homey cases, which were two brokers that had filed lawsuits, class action lawsuits against NAR, and I believe a couple of state, and maybe even a local MLS or two, were dismissed. These are related to MLS and NAR membership. And these cases, NAR was pleased to report that both of these cases were dismissed. Now, they could be appealed, and so we haven't gotten past the appeal period yet, but initially a good outcome in both of these cases. And the last thing I will share with you today is a special update that we're preparing for our brokers in charge. I know that you participate in regular sales meetings with your teams, with your affiliated agents and licensees, and we're going to be providing you with some relevant, timely information, and we're going to put that in a slide format that you can just plug into presentations, make it easy for you to share some relevant statewide information on real estate topics, real estate research, things that may be of interest to you as you look forward to the next season, the next market, as we get ready. 2026 is unbelievably closer than it was last month. We're a little bit we're nearing the fall. It's hard to talk about the fall and winter when it's 101 degrees outside, but that's where we are. So, Mike, have I missed anything? I think I've covered it. I've even thrown in a Happy Gilmore reference today.
Legal conference.
The our Realtor Mania conference. I would strongly encourage you, if you haven't seen any of the promos, our keynote speaker, broker Anthony Lamacchia from Boston is going to be on hand. Real Estate Commission, legal updates, forms updates, CE, our new buyer agency course is going to be rolled out with instructor extraordinaire Diana Brothers and others. We're so excited to put this program on for you. We've got close to a couple of hundred realtors already registered, and we've got room for quite a bit more. So realtors, please, please, please check out our event in September. You will not be disappointed. I think you'll walk away with a lot of great information and tips and tools for your business. So I think with that, I've covered everything, right? Anything else? Good. So realtors, I know it's hot. Stay cool, stay safe, and look forward to catching up with it. I was going to end it on a good note. Stay safe, stay strong, and we will catch up again with you real soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Byron.
Thank you.